Customer service people of Reddit, what's the dumbest thing a customer has gone out of their way to complain about? I loved delivering pizzas back in the day, but god almighty some customers were absolute sheetheads. I had one lady call the store to complain that her pizza was cold and she wanted a new one. Now, her house was maybe a half mile from the store and I took her pizza first on my run, and it was the last one out. So when I delivered it, it was maybe 5 minutes out of the oven, and probably still the temperature of molten lava. My manager tells me to take her a new one, but to get the old one, which of course she doesn't have, because she faking well ate it. I can't give you this one, unless you give me the other one. We threw it out, it's in the trash. Show me I'm not letting you look in our trash, then I'm not giving you this pizza. I'm calling your manager. Go ahead, but I have other pizzas to deliver. I left and did my thing. Manager tells me that she's getting a refund and tells me to take it back to her. So I do. After delivering my other pizzas to actual customers, I also tell her she's on the banned customer list. She called the store and complained again because I didn't refund her $2 tip. Manager tells me to give her back the $2. Even offers to just give me $2 just to make this lady go away. I go to the cash register and buy 4 rolls of pennies and unwrap them. When I pull up to her house, she comes out on the front porch and has one hand on her hip and the other one out for me to hand her $2. She was not expecting change and definitely not 200 pennies dumped onto her hand. Of course her hardie was too small to hold that much change anyway, and they immediately fell to the ground and went everywhere. I just got in my car and went back to work and told my manager what I'd done. He wanted to be mad at me because he thought he was supposed to be mad, but he just started laughing. He did put her on the banned customer list. 4 or sell any cell phones. We do home phone and internet only at Regional ISP. We don't provide service for cell phones. Old man. Angry noises, threats of BBB complaints. Tada. I understand your frustration, sir, but if Papa John's gets your order wrong, it won't help you to complain to the Taco Bell manager. Old man. Dawning comprehension. Mumbled comment about I should be nicer and hang up sound. I've worked at a few call centers, and only at one could I see the customer reviews. I was already on the phone with this lady for a long time, and she was having trouble using a coupon. She had to have a minimum of $20 in her cart to use it, but she wanted to use it without buying $20 worth of stuff first. Baffling point, she was being a huge beach already, but I was keeping my cool until I misheard what she said and said, sorry, could you repeat that? She then starts railing on me for not speaking English. I was born and raised in Central Florida and English is my native tongue, so at this point I sort of half jokingly offer to switch to Spanish if she'd be more comfortable with that, since I speak decent Spanish too. It ended up with my supervisor being the one to calm her down and hang up, and her review said something like, reps don't speak English. Disgusting. The worst part is it still counted against me, even though it was a flagrantly bullshit review, and this cunt still ended up getting her way in the end. I ended up quitting on the spot a short time later, and I was already considering throwing myself in front of a bus that stopped at the bus stop outside the building, just to avoid another day of working there. Don't work at call centers, kids, if you can help it. I worked for a website-based company that sold things. Our competitor had some feature on the website that we didn't. A customer called me asking where that feature was. I told him we didn't have that feature on our website. He got mad and said that we should. I agreed with him and said I could pass along the suggestion and maybe they'd add that feature in the future. He asked, well, when will it be ready? He was expecting an answer between right this minute and 8 PM tonight. When I told him it didn't quite work that way, he screamed at me, a call center employee, to change the website. His specific instructions were just code up some HTML and put it there. Then he hung up. We also got people calling us screaming that we were discriminating against them because they couldn't use our online-only store without a computer or a smartphone. How they managed to even hear about us, much less find the 800 number, I can't understand. Like I said, web-based company. And like most web-based companies, the phone number isn't exactly prominently displayed because they don't want you calling. you'd need to have basic access to and knowledge of how to navigate around a website or do a Google search to find that information. A guy and his daughter came into our department store to see Santa, put his shopping bag of milk down somewhere in store, and forgot about it, came in next day to check lost property, and complained that no one had handed it in, and wanted us to pay for 2 liters of milk. A lady complained, because we wouldn't give her a refund on a pair of shoes she bought at a competing store, even though she had a receipt and store policy said we will refund if you have a receipt. A different lady complained that we wouldn't accept a payment for a lady she had at a different, competing store. Another different lady complained her friend was sent a $10 reward club voucher for her birthday. She never got one for her birthday. It's her birthday. I was to give her $10. Even though she wasn't a rewards club member. These descriptions are condensed, but I would have spent 10 to 20 minutes with each dumb complaint, being abused and yelled at, and having to stand there and act polite and reasonable with idiots. The last one happened around the time in the USA when those 3 girls were rescued from Ariel Castro's house, and I was thinking to myself, this beach is acting like her life is about to end over $10, while these 3 girls have had 10 years withheld from them. I quit after this, and now work in a position where I don't have any contact with the public. I have to that stand out from my old part-time job from college, both involving the same customer on different occasions. First he complained that he couldn't get cash back off a credit card. Not sure if it's the same in all countries, but here in Ireland you can only get cash back at the till you pay with a debit card. It was 9 AM on a Sunday morning and he really stood there and tried to argue that it was our fault. But the next incident was the absolute worst. In Ireland there's a 20% government tax levy on plastic bags. It wasn't shop store specific, it's a nationwide surcharge, at least in the Republic, not sure about the North. Anyway, there was a gang of about 7 of us all in college and working in the shop, and we were all from the town that the shop was in, so we had our own rule that we'd only charge this 20% bag tax on annoying customers or people who had been rude before. This particular asshole from the above credit card cashback incident kicked up a fuss that he had to pay 20% for a bag. Bear in mind it's only 20%. Anyway, he paid for his stuff, bag included, and left. He came back maybe 30 minutes later with the empty bag looking for a refund. He had gone home, put his shopping, groceries for my transatlantic readers, by the way good luck with the election, and then he had traveled back to the shop to try and get his measly 20% back. Needless to say he was laughed out the door, but my god, what a fack. Plenty more assholes, but this guy always boiled my blood. I actually have an email saved, and I read it from time to time, because it makes me laugh. This person worked for a company that travels around the country/world to trade conventions to sell their products. The person sent their products/displays to our local convention center, but didn't make sure the label was correctly placed on the box, and it fell off. I ended up getting a call about it, and happened to find it in our warehouse, so I went out of my way to try and fix it, because I know how time sensitive/urgent these things are, and maybe they are not in the country/city anymore. So I took the call. The lady was frantic. I mean, granted I get it, but didn't want to talk over the phone because she was too busy and wanted me to email her. She tells me she's leaving our city and landing in another city tomorrow and to have her stuff forwarded there. I do this. Then she re-ms me out on the email because she was just temporarily staying there and going to another city 500 km north of that city and now wants her stuff sent there. So I have to contact that station and have them fix it and send it there. It gets there and guess what? She's now moved on to another city 2,000 kilometers on the other coast. She proceeds to email me 5 times over that night when I told her my work hours and when I'm at my desk. She then complains in the last email that I'm ignoring her. 3 AM my time. I was very clear in what I was doing the whole time, yet she threw me under the bus in the email chain and included everyone in her company. However, in these emails it's obvious I was asking these questions and trying to help. I then finally get her stuff fixed again, and it ended up getting delivered, but she then tried to get me in trouble with my higher ups and wanted my manager to follow up because I was so unprofessional. The best part was it ended with a senior executive responding, basically giving me praise for trying to help her, even if she didn't think so. She still works for that company somehow, lol. Oh, I love telling this story. I worked at a GM dealer in early 2000s. We had this guy, Sweater Guy was his nickname, as he always wore them, regardless of season, come in occasionally, who would never want to give you his VI in ash for fear that we'd steal his identity via his car. Yes, you read that correctly. Point now, his final trip to our shop was a doozy. As usual, he won't give us info on his vehicle, but expects us to get the right parts the first time, despite knowing there are variations of his vehicle, Pontiac Bonneville, and by providing us the info it helps him get exactly what he wants. So we finally get him to cooperate after 5 to 10 minutes of back and forth, hand him his parts, and he just stands there, staring at us. Parts manager, is something wrong, sir? SG, I want the freshest parts on the shelf. These are dusty, and have obviously been here forever. PM, well, there's no expiration date on these, as they don't expire. It's kinda dusty back here, which is why there's dust on the boxes. SG, angrily, I don't care, I want fresh product, or I'm going to the business manager. PM, I'll call him back right now, and he can explain this to you, since you choose to be rude to us. General manager comes back, already having been aware this guy is here, again, and tries to rationalize with him, and gets the exact same treatment we did in the shop. He leaves for a couple minutes, comes back with a piece of paper in his hand, and says to SG, please read and sign this. It states that you are no longer allowed on the premises, seeing as you continue to harass my employees each visit. If you return, we will call the police, and have you escorted off the property. Understood. And with that, Sweater Guy scribbled his name, and grumbled his way out the door. There was this one time where this woman complained to my manager that I gave her an attitude when I was talking to her. She didn't give any context, and just said I was rude when I was talking to her. Let me give you the whole story. Since the pandemic, I have been assigned on a position where I count people into the store. As I was counting people in, I noticed in the front entrance, where we have 2 chairs, there was this one woman sitting on the chair with her mask fully down. Keep in mind this is right in the walkway, where she is essentially breathing on everyone who's leaving the store. I had very politely and kindly asked her to please lift her mask up, as it was completely below her chin and not covering anything at all. She had then refused, and I had again informed her of the dangers and reminded her of us being in a pandemic. The stupidity of this is, not only are you not wearing a mask when it's mandated, we are approaching on the 1-year mark of the pandemic, and at this point you don't understand the regulation of wearing a mask? This is utter stupidity at its highest point. Even if I did give you attitude, why shouldn't I? You're 2 feet away from the door, where you can simply stand outside where it's warm, and instead you choose to sit down right in front of the walkway with your mask down, and get confused when I ask you to put your mask up. I hate people. I'm not a CS person, but I was at a little hole-in-the-wall family-owned drive-in fast food place. This location is known locally by everyone in the small town, and this particular small town had a reputation for being a lot of rough and tough farmers, hunters, and welders, and even smiths and miners. No joke. They did a lot of hard artisan work here. They were also very sarcastic people by nature. Friendly at first, but touch the wrong buttons and you will be in a world of hurt. Nothing phases these people. Well, they get a lot of travelers heading to some resorts some miles off. This lily pad town is in the middle of nowhere between other small towns and villages. I frequent the family business regularly, and they locally sourced all their produce for their food. So it's good shit. Well, that also means their prices are a bit higher. Think Culver's but better quality. If you have ever paid their unfortunate prices for food, some traveling lady made a huge mistake. Her nice, newest model at the time, Lincoln Navigator, was parked in their little parking lot, was still running. I parked my less fancy Malibu next to her. I could hear her from the outside of the cheap storm door that hardly latches in the summertime. As soon as I stepped out of my car, it was noon. The kids were out from the creek, and the faint aroma of fish and chips with fried pickles was about the air like a Midwestern perfume. This beach, her banshee screaming, would stop occasionally as the employee, the rough daughter of the business owner, and her husband These women were Scandinavian as fuck. If you know what that means, then good for you. If you don't, then it means they are not to be faked with. Apparently the excitement had just happened. Keep in mind they have cute little paper menus available with prices on them. Karen can't do math either. She's freaking out that her food has come to the whopping price of $10.65 faking cents. She hasn't even paid yet. Of course, Point Lyra, our employee, dead inside since the day she crawled from her mother's unholy womb, is staring this woman down. The price, she says, and I swear I can hear her jaw cracking with how gritted her teeth are the prices. Now pay up, or I'm eating your food for my lunch. I demand to see the manager. Of course you do, Karen. Of course you do. But you're not from around here, are you? Or poor sod. Look. Lyra finally has raised her voice. Look, you faking glorified nipple clamp. This isn't a goddamn charity service. It's a restaurant. Now pay up, or drive 150 miles back, and go to the faking soup kitchen in the city, if you're so goddamn desperate for a handout, to go with your bullshit marriage. Money. Now, or leave. I have paying customers that will pay up and not whine like a little bitch that I would much rather deal with right now. She walked out. I praised Lyra. I got my lunch for free. Not a huge fan of potato poppers though. But like she said, I don't complain in a Scandinavian woman's house, let alone her restaurant. I work in a pharmacy. Just a couple days ago I rang through a guy with a very small order of groceries. Bread, eggs, etc. His total came to just over $10, and when I asked him how he was paying, he gave me a $20 store coupon. Noticing he was a little short, I politely told him we weren't able to use it on an order that was less than $20. It's not an interchangeable amount and I can't substitute the remainder of the coupon out in cash, but informed him that I could suspend the order if he wanted to get a couple more things, so I could take the $20 off. He got visibly and loudly irate with me, repeatedly telling me to just do it, turning to the other customers in line and calling me stupid, saying he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Even told me to keep it and roughly snatched it away again when I tried to explain that he could keep it for next time if he doesn't want to go back now. He just needs his subtitle to be at $20. Like, dude, I'm trying to tell you, you can get more stuff and pay less if you just get a few more items. I'm helping you, saving you faking money, and you're yelling at me for it? Why? Also once had a lady yell at me because she somehow couldn't wrap her head around the fact that an item was on sale the previous day, but the sale had ended when she tried to buy it again the next night. Like, lady, it wouldn't be a sale if it was that price 24/7. That doesn't even make sense. I don't get it. This is faking ridiculous. I'm never shopping here again. Awesome. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I worked at a bank a few years back as a call taker. I had someone come through and had obviously entered in the wrong identification number that the bank uses to make it easier to bring up a person's information. Point, this is fine. I deal with this 1/10 times. So I asked the lady if she could please provide her name or identification number. She immediately goes off tap and says, you should have all my faking information in front of you. I just replied politely, ma'am, there seems to have been an error, so if I could get some information I'd be happy get you through this as quickly as I can. So she yells some 8-digit number at me, which I confirm with her and try and pull up a profile. There was nothing attached to the number, so I once again confirm the number with her. Yet that the number. What are you, daft or something, ma'am? I'm just trying to bring up the profile so that I can assist with any issue that you are having. I'll try with your name. Could you please just provide your first and last name? Let's just say her name was Alina Smith. Real last name was uncommon. Don't remember first name. I search the name and nothing comes up. Naturally I say, is Smith your maiden name? Alina, I have never been married in my life. She replies, okay, you mentioned that there is an issue with your card not working before. Can I get the card number and we will bring up your profile using that? She stopped. Why do you want my card number? Are you trying to scam me, ma'am? You called the bank. If the profile got brought up, I have access to all this information anyway, and there are strict parameters in place to make sure that your card information is as secure as possible, so that even if I did have the card number, no one in this bank could do anything with that information. I always said this to put people at ease with giving me information they were a little uneasy about giving me, she says. Fine, and provides me the number. I confirm it with here again as I type it in, but still nothing comes up. I ask her what may seem like a stupid question. Ma'am, what color's the card? Blue and pink. She replies, okay, the symbol in the top left hand corner is a purple shield, correct? Yes, of course. That's your company's symbol, you idiot. No ma'am, I'm sorry, you have called the wrong bank. If you call this number, providing her the correct bank's number just to be helpful, they will be able to assist you. No. This is the bank. This is my bank. She replies quite angrily, I'm sorry Elisa, but the bank card you just described doesn't correspond with this bank. We have never offered a blue and pink card and our symbol is not a purple shield. I'm still being polite and just trying inform her that she need to call the other bank. My manager listens in at this point because he's interested into why I gave another bank's number. She goes off, first of all, don't be facetious. Second of all, my name is Elena. You're such an idiot. Do you even know what facetious means? I just reply essentially sarcastic. Now Elisa, this time on purpose, on the back of the card there will be a number. To call it Elena, you little sheet, and yes, spist. I already have manager approval to drop this lady into the hell that is the other bank's queue. Well, Elisa, if you call that number you will be in touch with the correct people. My name should be right in front of you. Stop getting it wrong. I would like to speak with your manager. Usually this bank has the policy that as soon as you ask for the manager, we need to escalate. Get in touch with the manager, and while the manager responds, try and calm them down. My manager mutes my mic, says the best words that could ever be said. She's not a customer. She doesn't have any valid claim to speak to a manager, and frankly I don't want to speak to her. You have plenty of grounds to hang up on her as she's being abusive, so I say, have some fun with her, and hang up. So I say the following: I'm so sorry Elisa, that I keep on getting wrong, but the fact that your information isn't on my screen means you got something wrong. Now seeming as I can't identify you, I'm not actually allowed to put you through to a manager. Lies, all lies. Now Elisa, if you call the correct bank, maybe they could assist you with this problem. Now is there anything else that I can help you with today? Karen. Oops, sorry Elisa. She hung up. TLDR, lady calls wrong bank, calls me a facetious idiot, asks to complain about me getting her name wrong as she is not a customer, and gets dealt with accordingly. Yes, I was an asshole to her, but she was an ass first when I was just directing her to the correct location. At one point, I worked for a pest control company. One of the things we offered was termite protection. We used centrican stations, which are about 7 inches long and buried in the ground. Since we needed to bury stuff, we would contact 811 to have utility lines marked. 811 is not affiliated with our pest control company in any shape or form. Typically, 811 would mark the lines within a few days and we'd come out with an electric auger to place the stations. Now, sometimes 811 would be backed up or there would be concerns of unmarked lines, so we also had a manual auger. So the options ended up being, have 811 mark the lines and use the electric auger, or not have lines marked and use the hand auger. This was both for our technicians' safety and to make sure we didn't fuck up an utility line, i.e. water or buried power. 811 can take several days to mark a line. However, we do not process any payment until the work is done and the centricans are installed. Get a call from a dude. He signed the contract for centrican stations 2 days previously and wanted to know when we would do it. I explained we were for 811 to mark lines. Guy immediately and utterly loses his shit. Yells about how he paid a lot of money for this and we couldn't just take his money and not do the work. I attempt to explain we have not ran his card and we will not until the work is done. Proceeds to yell at me for several more minutes that he wants the stations placed today. Eventually, get him placed on hold and call over to the service center manager. He says we can come out today with a hand auger if the customer is so insistent. Okay, cool. Get back to customer and tell him we can come out and do a hand auger today since 811's ETA was 3 to 5 days. Nope. He starts yelling even louder that we will not be doing anything to his property until lines are marked. So, you want us out today, but don't want us out until lines are marked. yells at me, and calls me an idiot. We continue this circle logic for several minutes, while I try to get him to acknowledge he's asking for things in a way I can't provide, and explaining 12 plus times that I cannot control 811. Finally, I give up, and send him to my manager, who then gets screamed at for 30 minutes about the exact same sheet. We ended up cancelling his contract, and marking his account as do not sale due to harassment. This is actually recent with our mask mandate. I sell appliances, and this mother had come in with her kitchen package in mind. She was buying over 8k worth of equipment. She wasn't the problem, but the process was timely, probably 15 minutes of paperwork. The problem was the entitled couple waiting on me to finish up with her. As mom and I were biting through paperwork, I of course was chatting with her to help build that relationship, asking about kids, her life, etc. Well, the entitled couple, wife specifically, was absolutely livid that I would waste their time by talking to this lady about her life. She didn't realize that we were actually accomplishing things while we chat. After the transaction is finished, I look to the couple and tell both the husband and wife to please put their mask over their noses and cover their faces properly. Oh man, the devil came out. Not only was she pissed about being told what to do, but I had made her wait for no reason. How dare you? How dare you tell me what to do? Before I could even respond to this crazy lady, she found my manager and proceeded to complain. My boss later approached me laughing his ass off. My boss, so let me get this straight. You mean that you're upset that she gave a customer excellent service and politely reminded you to follow our mask policy here at insert employer? Yes. She wasted our time with meaningless conversation and told me what to do. We spent so much money here. My manager laughed at her, and you can imagine that pissed her off. My manager just walked up to me and said, "You're doing a great job." TLDR, the owner of Sambuca 360 in Dallas, Texas is a huge faking beach point. I was a valet during college. This was maybe our 2007 to 2009 time frame, and was working a restaurant for lunch. A person's car breaks down, or for a flat tire, I forget which. Security came to help them and said pull over here, which was Sambuca 360. The restaurant was still in the process of construction and had a little semicircle in front to pull up in. McCuntison pulls up and asks me why there's a car in her spot. I said, well, that car is messed up and security is helping them. He's getting someone to bring the emergency charger or whatever and he'll move. I'm guessing the giant SUV with security on the side with flashing lights with a broken down car wasn't clear enough. Cunty, can I park here? Me, you want to park here in front of the valet drive of this restaurant? No, I'm still working and I have customers inside, so you can't block someone else's drive. So you can park here. She pulls around to the back area where they're supposed to be anyway, which is literally not even 50 feet away. While I was pulling a car, she grabbed the cones that were inside of my valet stand to block off a spot for herself. I said, "Nah, you don't get to touch my stuff," and moved it back. Cunty said, "Fine, be that way." Ms. McCuntison proceeded to call my manager to tell them I parked a car in front of her restaurant. I took her things, was rude, and a bunch of other stuff. I told my boss what happened and told them to ask the manager of the restaurant who saw all of this while I was working, or the security guard on duty, if they needed to. I never heard anything else, and from what I was told from my ex-coworker, she's still a beach to this day. All of this just to avoid parking 50 feet away. Work at Home Depot in order fulfillment. Just recently, Boppis order comes in for Halloween product. I know offhand that we had recently shipped all the remaining Halloween product to another store in the area that was apparently going gangbusters in seasonal, but for the sake of due diligence, I check anyway. Our entire Halloween section had been completely purged to make way for Christmas already. And I verified with the supervisor for that product that yes, the product was gone. We are just waiting on the other store to finalize the paperwork to shift the inventory system side. So I call the customer and explain his product is out of stock, both at my store and all the other immediately nearby stores. But if he was willing to make the drive, then the store about 40-ish minutes up the freeway has all the Halloween stuff. He said he understood. thanked me for my time and asked to be refunded then. Cool, easy, no problem. About 20 minutes later, I see his name pop into my orders again. Same product. Don't even bother looking, just call him directly. Explain again that he ordered from the same store. We still don't have it. Our counts are off because of pending paperwork, and apologize for the inconvenience. Again, he seems to understand, and I make sure to mention to change the store selected on his side if he's trying to pick it up from the other store. Okay, great. On with my day. 30 minutes go by. Guess who? I call him up, introduce myself again, and he interrupts. What is it going to take for you to have this at your store? Your website says you have it. Why are you lying to me? Do I need to call corporate to actually get some customer service here? Like, 0 to 100. I try to butt in and be polite and explain for a third time, but he's not having it. Just yelling over everything. On the side I cancel his order and refund him while he's going on, and under his screaming, explain that my store isn't doing personal transfers to limit possible cross-store contamination during COVID, and even if it hadn't, I wouldn't be making a 30+ mile drive to pick up a $10 item. Thanked him and hung up. Don't know if he did call corporate, but definitely noticed his survey response as well as his Yelp review. Like, bruh, are you that sore over not getting your little decoration? Have all the time in the world to blast your /valued /opinion of our service, but not 60 seconds to listen to me and understand it's not available? As much as I could go into the many arguments with customers in the auto part industry, I can think of 3 things trying to explain to people why we don't list X/Y parts for their vehicle for various reasons, and also the whole, well, I can buy it online for X/Y price, and my personal favorite too, a scammer who was trying to use the classic my parents/grandparents/friends/whoever bought a jack and I'd like to return/warranty it scam. Manager took the phone call and went through the whole spiel while arguing with this woman that we could not do a return because didn't have a receipt. Gee, wonder why we don't store customer information and thus no record of a purchase. Again, no receipt. We cannot do transactions over the phone. Unless you have an account we cannot do a return/warranty for a part that isn't physically here, lady. Eventually got frustrated and told my manager, well, that's not good customer service. His response, no, it isn't. That's company policy. She hung up. And also this one, that just takes the cake. 3, similar to the above story, where a customer kept arguing about getting his money for a warranty for a part he refused to give us to warranty out. Long story short, he needed CV axles for his car which we did not list anymore because they were no longer being manufactured. We ended up ordering them for him from somewhere else as a remon, meaning they both had core deposits on them. Things happened, and while he did bring back one of the cores for the axles, he said the other one needed to be warrantied out for whatever reason that I don't remember. We tell him, okay, well, bring us the axle and we'll warranty it out for you and give you your money back. He refused. His logic was along the lines of, I already gave you one of them, why would I give you the other? Can't you just give me my money back for it? We spent weeks, yes weeks. He kept leaving and coming back arguing over this, explaining to him plain and simple, we cannot give you your money back for a warranty for a part we do not have because you refuse to give it to us. Worked at a fabric store. Lady came in, and while at the cutting counter to get her fabric cut, an employee, actually the manager, told her to check out the coupons we had online. Brings it up to checkout and I'm ringing up. I have to then explain that she can't use the $ off total and % off total. It's one or the other, the better of the two. Lady goes off on me about how the cut counter lady should have said that blah blah blah, it's a scam blah blah blah. This is after she's already told me how she had no idea we had coupons and had then been planning to pay full price if we hadn't mentioned them to her. She also did a sort of, how does it even cost that much? So I started going item by item on price, and she got snippy at me about how she can read the keypad. She isn't stupid. I arguably often had to explain costs because people would get thrown off by the per yard pricing, so they wouldn't think about how 3 yards of $10 it is really $30, and so if they get 3 of them, that's $90. Then once I was done turned around back to manager to complain about me. Added bonus, she brought the fabric back the next week and complained that it wasn't the right fabric and why didn't anyone tell her that it was the wrong size for her project. Mind you, she didn't ask for any help picking it out nor asked us any tips for her project. She did say what she was making, but never asked for guidance with it, and it's horrible how we wouldn't have said anything to her about this, even though she never asked us for help.